1795 Uprising on Curacao, Breaking the Silences. Thank you for the invitation of the Vereniging on Suriname to be part of the conference on resistance against slavery and its legacy. I want to acknowledge especially Saint-Louis in this matter, his constant demand for us to sharpen the saw in our search to decolonize our minds in our research findings, and also the dissemination of information needs to be mentioned. Although I would have loved to be part of the discussion, the preparation for 1st of July 150 years of abolition of slavery here in Curacao, in particular at the museum, makes it impossible to be with you. At the same time, I want to thank my friends who have volunteered to be my audience today so that I do not need to be talking to a camera, but eventually can get feedback. Even being far away, I hope to get also your reaction, and I'm sure that the recommendations of this conference will help us in the near future for the continuance of our scientific and educational work. The setup of this presentation is the following. The debate on the revolt of Tula in 1795 will center itself around the question if this revolution was planned or not. Secondly, we will discuss the resistance movement immediately after the revolt of 1795. And thirdly, we will dialogue with you on Tula's legacy in the 20th and 21st century. The point of departure of this presentation is that we have to do our utmost to deepen our knowledge on the revolution of Tula within the framework of the Age of Revolution. All efforts must be taken to digitalize the archives at the National Archives of The Hague that are not open for public concerning this period. At the same time, the search in the archives of Coro, Paris, London must be done as soon as possible and intensified. Our government of Curacao has a duty to take an initiative in this matter. Also, any analysis concerning the Tula revolt must be accompanied with a better insight on the slave society of Curacao from our perspectives as the descendants of the African enslaved. It will help us to understand the revolution at different levels, and at the same time it will debunk stereotypical thinking on the slave society of Curacao. This analysis will be incomplete without a comparison with what was going on in the Caribbean at the same time, in the same epoch. A comparison with other Freeport systems in the Caribbean is also a necessity. At the moment, in most hagiographical literature, Curacao is denominated as a non-typical slave society, a society that does not fit within the plantation economy, and a society that has a mild form of enslavement. Now let's focus on the Freeport system. We are constantly confronted with the dispute that because of the climate and the dryness of the country, we cannot speak of a plantation economy. Also, the open and commercial character of the economy makes the society a non-typical slave society. Now, our argument is that till the moment that the economy of Curacao was booming, the condition of the soil was not a discussion. The plantation did take care of the local food for the elite, the enslaved who were staying temporarily on the island because Curacao was a slave deposit, food for the ships anchored in the harbor, and exporting some produce like salt. The plantation economy was part of the chain within the commercial economy of Curacao. However, the Dutch colonial economy did not adapt itself to the occurring transition changes within the mercantile economy going to a liberal commercial capitalism. The Freeport economy of Curacao suffered, and because of this, it affected also the plantation economy. Hence, it is not the condition of the soul that hindered the plantation economy. The moment Holland did lose the competitive battle against France and England, this affected the Freeport existence and also the slave market in Curacao. St. Thomas, on the other hand, also a Freeport, adapted itself speedily to the new circumstances in the sense that even merchants from Curacao immigrated to St. Thomas at the end of the 18th century. The Freeport system is the other side of the medallion of the mercantile system. The Freeport makes it possible to buy the manufactured goods at a lower price. At the same time, the farmers that produce food have a market for their products through intermediaries. The commercial exchange of enslaved was possible at a better rate. Now let's look at the characteristics of a free port. First of all, the supply of products from the rural area to town by enslaved, in particular domestic slaves, like Tula, and artisans to sell the products of the master are very part of the system. This brings the enslaved persons in contact with the wider world in town, news broadcasts, and the network of resistance. Because of the character of the town and the need for different services, more enslaved and free people and colored people are living in town. Within the system, many owners of enslaved rent enslaved people without having any plantation, without being a plantation owner. The free port permits the enslaved also to earn money and give them a chance to buy themselves free. The possibility of running away is more at hand, and the town gives the opportunity to get news from abroad more easily. When we compare these characteristics with the free port of St. Thomas, we see the same pattern. However, we must not make the mistake to conclude that because of this uniqueness, slavery was less cruel, less inhumane, less a crime against humanity. Now, Curacao has known different rebellions like the one in 1716, 1715, 1774, and it culminates in the Big of Hebel of 1795. In the book Slavery and Resistance in Curacao, the Rebellion of 1795, the authors, Charles Orrego and Lionel Yanga, show and argue that the enslaved had a very good knowledge of the French Revolution and the revolutions taking on in the French Caribbean, in particular Saint Dominique, which became the Haitian nation. The enslaved knew also that Holland had become a satellite state of France in 1795. The answer to the question if the revolution was planned or not is affirmative, especially if we compare the revolution in Curacao in 1795 with the resistance movement all over the Caribbean in the same period of time. What are the arguments to underline this statement? Why a planned revolution? First of all, the rules and publication the year before the revolution show that the government must have been aware of the tensions and that there was trouble brewing. Tula was a domestic slave working on the plantation of Grenada, and he had a certain space of mobility. It is even possible that exactly like Bashankar Pata, he also has been to Coro, Venezuela, or the French Caribbean. Tula and his comrades must have had a military strategic plan. Some of us have studied the field of the plots where strategically the military groups were stationed. And from this study, it is very clear that there was a strategic plan, military plan, even coming to town and at the neighborhood of Scarlo. One particular publication of 1794 needs to be mentioned. The publication mentions that there are captains pretending that those on the ships are Bouzals coming directly from the west coast of Africa. But the publication continues, this is not true. They are Creole people from Saint-Domingue, Haiti. They must be sold within a period of a month, and this counts also for the ones who are already on the island. The question is, were these people disguised revolutionaries? We will answer this question later on. Within the Tula Revolution, slogans were used similar that were exclaimed by the revolutionaries in Haiti and Saint-Domingue: liberty or death. Guerrilla tactics were used all over the Caribbean in the same way also in Curacao. The fact that Tula nicknamed himself Rigaud and Louis Mercier Toussaint indicate the contact and knowledge that what's going on the French Caribbean. Next to the revolution in Haiti, we have to focus attention also on what was going on in Guadeloupe between 1790 and 1802. After the abolition of slavery by France, Victor Huge arrives as a commissioner for the French government in 1794. Now, Britain had just invaded Guadeloupe and Martinique. Huge mobilizes many ex-enslaved in his army. They defeat the English army, forcing them out of Guadeloupe. Huge army massacres hundreds of French royalist planters who had also supported the British army. And Huge sends his agents and troops to St. Vincent, to St. Lucia and Martinique. He also communicated with Verdun, leader of the Grenada Revolt that lasted from March 1795 to 1796. Julien Fedon was a free-collared owner of large cacao and coffee estates. Huge erected a monument deploring British crimes against humanity. He was called back by France in 1798, but he had trained an army with exceptional good black commanders, and most importantly was the fact that the troops of Hughes tried to spread the revolution, the freedom that had come to Guadeloupe in 1974. We encounter in 1800 these black troops of Guadeloupe trying in vain to conquer Curacao for France. The revolutionaries in Haiti were helped by veterans that had fought in North America, Caribbean and African wars. Henry Christophe, the future emperor of Haiti, and André Rigaud had both fought at the side of France in the American War of Independence. Rigaud has also fought in Guadeloupe. So we need to connect that information with the other information that we got by telling the commander-in-chief here in Curacao, saying that a certain Christophe had passed on the information that a Frenchman, Rigaud, would come and save all the enslaved people in Curacao. And particularly, Christophe had gone to Canip to inform the enslaved people over there. We have to connect the dots. There is definitely, in my perception, a pattern of exporting the revolutionary ideas and to combine efforts to abolish slavery. Even more, I want to argue that this pattern leads toward the definition of a Caribbean identity or Caribbeanism. The Cuban Benitez Rojo has described this identity as an attitude of continued improvisation. The documents constantly accentuate that the idea was to take over the island. Also, in the discussion with the priest Schenk, Tula mentions that he knew that France has taken over Holland in January 1795. This means that the leaders must have inculcated the political vacuum of the moment to start the revolution. Although the main leaders were put to death October 3rd of that year, the struggle continued in the hills of Christophe till mid-November of that year. And although we need to do more research on the Tula Revolt, different factors point in the direction of a plan to revolt with the support of revolutionaries of the Caribbean, especially the French Caribbean. Now let's look at the aftermath, 1795-1800. The following years after the revolution were filled with tension. Publication of rules reflect the strain upon the government. Some examples of publications are rules against the disturbances of peace, rules prohibiting the entering of people from Saint Dominique, Haiti, prohibition to buy goods confiscated by French corsairs, prohibition to assemble on the street to throw stones and shit on persons and houses. All of these rules are signs of the division within the society between the royalists and the patriots. Curacao was also getting instruction and recommendation by agencies from the French island, in particular Guadeloupe, in the name of France. And these agencies were constantly trying to impose the French rule and also to export the freedom from slavery, as I have argued already. The name of the representative of the agency of Guadeloupe in Curacao was Jean-Baptiste Thiers. From Guadeloupe, the governor was receiving letters indicating that Guadeloupe can send soldiers for the defense of Curacao, which was not accepted. Another byproduct of this situation is that the French frigates that entered the harbor demanded constantly the necessary provision, which did cost a lot of money. In 1796, sympathizers of the French Revolution in Curacao staged a coup d'etat together with the colonel of the French frigates, Thomas, to disempower Governor Boujon, that had replaced that same year the Ancien regime Governor de Veer. Boujon was accused to be in league with the English government. A new governor was appointed, Laufer. The indications are that Jean-Baptiste Thiers, together with another ambassador Defoe, plotted to facilitate the entrance of military troops from Guadeloupe. Now, in 1800, through the maneuver of French troops consisting of black and colored people, entered to the Bay of Simhill and advanced to town. They were held by the freed and enslaved people from the western area of the island. The enslaved and free persons also blocked the road to town. That's why townspeople could not get water, corn, and meat. Laufer, a patriot, but in name, asked the English for help. It is still a mystery why the French troops did capitulate and withdraw. More study is necessary. The enslaved and free persons also blockaded the road to town. In this sense, the townspeople could not get water, meat, and corn. The governor Laufer asked now the help from the English and handed the government over to the English government. It is still a mystery why the French troops did not continue with the fight, because they had moved on till town. They withdrew very fast, and so much more study is needed on this matter. The military French attacked September 1800 with the help of the enslaved and free people of the western area of the island, shows the revolutionary spirit of 1795 was still present despite the many losses of lives and the defeat of the revolution. Through oral history, we get the information that Knip stayed on in the image of the enslaved and free person as a contagious place of revolutionary ideas. Even so that it was best to avoid being in contact with the people of Knip. Another information given was that it was necessary to avoid speaking of the revolution because it could become very harmful for the person. And from the side of the government, we see in the many documents the continuous fear for another outburst as the revolution of 1795. Let's move on now to the breaking of the silence in the 20th and 21st century. The 60s of the 20th century is again a revolutionary period all over the globe. Here in Curacao, amongst the many strikes issued by unions, a group of progressive people starts a new discussion on the legacy of Tula and the need for historical consciousness concerning our heroes. The 60s of the 20th century starts again a revolutionary period around the globe. In Slavery and Resistance, the author, Dorrego, sums up some example of this breaking the silence, starting in 1963 with the inauguration of the memorial stone pillar by the late politician Dr. Moises da Costa Gomez. We need to mention also the progressive forces around 1967 that start to gather at the place where the heads of Tula and Carpata were displayed at stacks. But most of the progressiveness on the dialogue, the discussions on our identity, taking Tula as a model starts after the revolution of May 30th in 1969. And we can distinguish here different areas of work that is being done. First of all, on the scientific level, and we have to mention here in particular the issuing of the documents around the Tula Revolution that helps intellectuals to do the necessary research, cultural manifestations in songs and theater, also the part of educational manuals and educational material in general that are being issued, the government involvement in the whole Tula movement, starting with 1985, that August 17 was declared Memorial Day. 1989, the new monument that is and the artist is Nel Simon. 2009, the Tula as a national hero, and also the government involvement in the opening of a museum, MUSEO TULA, in 2007. We need to also put a lot of emphasis on the mass participation of the commemoration of August 17th, the yearly commemoration and that is under the leadership of Asociación Promoción Conciencia Histórico. Government involvement we find in different facts. For instance, 1985, August 17th was declared by the government as a Memorial Day. 1989, a new monument was erected called Desencadena by the artist Nel Simon. 2009, National Tula is declared a national hero. The Museum Tula opens its door in 2007, and the a pillar is erected at the National Archives with the names of the 29 freedom fighters of the revolt of 1795. Every year, the celebration of August 17th attracts many people to listen and discuss current events and current problems within the spirit of Tula's legacy and the emancipation process. Tula keeps on being an inspiration to becoming a more courageous person for our society. However, in order for us to keep Tula alive amongst us, it is necessary to have a strategic plan. I have already indicated the blank spots within the understanding of the revolt of Tula that are still missing links and that we need to do research on. Cooperation within the region to search within different archives outside our borders is necessary. At the same time, we need to be aware that history is still not in the curriculum as it should be. The government has an important task in this area. However, we cannot cross our fingers and wait for this to happen. As constructive citizens, active citizens of this country, we need to do our part in this too. And making use of educational television to start the discussion on nation building, taking the historical truths as point of departure. For the decolonization of our minds to take place, we need to study our freedom fighters in the Caribbean, and for us, starting with Tula. In order for us to keep Tula alive amongst us, it is necessary to have a strategic plan. I have already indicated the blind spots within understanding of the revolution of Tula that are still missing links that we do have to do research on. Collaboration through the Caribbean to search within different archives is necessary. At the same time, we need to be aware that history is not in the curriculum as it should be. The government has an important task in this area. However, we cannot cross our fingers and wait for this to happen. So it is up to us also to be part of the creation of educational material, including also educational TV. For the decolonization of the mind to take place, we need to study our freedom fighters all over the Caribbean and be in dialogue with each other in this matter, including the revolution of Tula. And last, on one side, we experience that as a result of 5 decades of pushing power of progressive forces, the government installs MUSEO TULA through the House of Culture. On the other hand, we experience that it is this government itself that breaks down the emancipation process because of financial constraints. In other words, the right of knowledge on our history is being trapped. The agenda of continuous research that has to be done, the outreach on educational material, including the visualization through MUSEO TULA of our resistance movement, cannot be stopped. In order to continue, we need to be creative and also get the necessary support from our friends. You can also play an important role in keeping the legacy of Tula alive. You can also play an important role in keeping the legacy of Tula alive. You can also play an important role by keeping the legacy of Tula alive. I thank you.